Hey guys, so I'm back with targeting tutorial number 3. The reason I'm doing that is because people wanted me to talk about 3 new towers, and that's all I'm going to do today. They wanted me to talk about the boomerang, the dartling gun, and the mortar. And they wanted me to talk about how you're supposed to target them and where the best place to put them, and they think that'll help out in you guys understanding how to play and use some of these weird towers that a lot of people don't know how to use targeting for. So I will definitely do that for you guys. I'm going to start with the mortar right here. And I chose this level because there's a lot of places for you to use the mortar on these little sections right here where you could actually get a couple spots where they're going to shoot. Now first of all, should you always leave a mortar in the same spot? Not really. What happens is if you leave a mortar in the same spot, it won't pop all the balloons, and some will probably get by. Now, should you always keep moving the mortar and just keep moving it the entire game? Not really either. Especially when you get into the late game. In the beginning of the map, mortars are actually surprisingly good. For example, if you see, especially on this level, the mortar will actually pop almost all the balloons, probably up to level like 10 or so. One thing, especially in the early levels, that people almost never ever do, which you could definitely do, is use some extreme mortar micro. And let me show you how to do that really fast. I'm going to do that for probably like the next 5 or 6 levels or something like that. And all you do is you click on the mortar, and you click on a spot, and then you can actually move him around and have him aim wherever you want. So you could just mortar micro the crap out of the entire game, and you will pretty much never lose for like 10 rounds, especially if you upgrade your mortar. And you can just keep holding this down, and he can aim wherever he wants. And a lot of people do not know about this technique, and you usually would never use it on most maps. It's probably better off to just use some sort of other tower. But if you're doing some sort of challenge where you need to use mortars or something like that, like a daily challenge, I mean, this could totally work for you. And if you notice, balloons are not getting very far. I mean, yeah, there are some getting through, but it is a mortar, and it is microing. So yeah, it is a little bit tough. And then if you get some upgrades and stuff like that, it'll definitely help out. Especially the 0, 3, or 3rd upgrade on the right side, just in general. And that upgrade is extremely good. It's the best thing for the mortar to get, at least in my opinion. Actually, no, I'm sorry. 0, 2 mortar. 0, 2 mortar is the little fire thing. And I don't want to upgrade it because I wanted to buy a dartling gun and just a round here. And with mortars, the best place to actually put them, since there is no strong, last, first, and weak, you actually use this as your targeting thing. And you want to put it someplace where you have a lot of glue or slow balloons, so usually around some sort of ice tower or a spot where balloons might get sent back to the beginning. That's a good spot for mortars. Also, mortars are usually not very good versus strong balloons. So if you're sort of late game, what you want to do is you don't want to have your mortar shooting like right here or somewhere up in here. You usually want to have your mortar sometimes here, depending on how good your defenses are, but usually like right here. And right here is usually the best because it also depends on the type of tower you have. If you have the Big Bang tower, I forget what it's called, the 4th upgrade on the left side, you could probably put it like right here, and it'll pop every balloon in this radius, and you will totally pop tons of balloons, even ceramics and all that. But if you're sort of mid-ranged game, where you're about at the first Moabs when you don't have one of those towers yet, and you just want to get some good popping power, you probably want to put it right around here, even with the 2nd upgrade on the right side. I mean, that's kind of up to you if you want to put it here or here, but I would personally put it right here. And definitely depends on your strategy a little bit. So that's just a basic mortar tutorial to the best of my ability. I hope it helped a little bit. Usually you just want to put mortars somewhere near the end of the map, unless you're doing some extreme microing like this. And you could do this throughout the whole game, but usually people don't want to do that because you're doing other things like using dartling guns or getting farms or something like that. That's why it's hard to keep up with mortar micro. You usually don't have time to go and move like 2 or 3 mortars to a different spot every single round. So that's why it's a little bit difficult. You usually want to just keep it in one spot. It's usually near the end of the map. Anyways, we're done with the mortar. I hope that explained the mortar good enough for you guys. Let's talk about a dartling gun. And dartling guns are a weird tower because you can put them pretty much anywhere on the map because they do have a full range. And they can attack anywhere in the entire map, so that means you can put them pretty much anywhere. But there usually is a little bit better of a spot, and usually what I like to do is put them in some sort of corner. And if I'm using banana farms, I have to put them in a certain spot. Like if I'm putting my banana farms up here, what I might do is I might put my dartling gun like right down here or over here or something like that, so I can still farm and have my dartling guns shoot. And I usually don't use dartling guns and farms in the same level, and I think that's pretty obvious why. Sorry, my throat's a little bit dry. Anyways, yeah, let me get a drink. Anyways, guys, usually what I end up doing if I'm not using dartling gun, or if I'm not using farms, I will put my dartling gun somewhere near the end of the map. And when you're targeting with dartling guns, I do that because there's usually some sort of straight line near the end of the map, usually, and also you can hit them usually from the beginning coming out, and you have to aim a little bit more over here, but once you get to the very end of the map, you pretty much don't have to aim at all. And you just gotta shoot right here, and usually it's like your last ditch effort of defense, and that's why I usually put them somewhere over here. Targeting with dartling guns is kind of from person to person. It's totally up to you, but usually what I do is I always aim the strong balloons because there's usually something better versus the weak balloons. And if you get a laser cannon or something like that, usually you can pop the weak balloons pretty well, or even a 2-3. The explosion guy, I don't know his name because I don't use him very often. But that guy is very good versus weak balloons, and usually want to aim weak balloons with him. But it's all very dependent on everything that's going on, so I can't even tell you very much about the dartling gun. Just usually aim strong with the weaker dartling guns. With the stronger dartling guns, it really doesn't matter too much. But usually why people end up getting dartling guns is to beat the Moabs, and that's pretty true for most levels. You usually need the dartling guns, especially a couple like 2-1 dartling guns or something like that, to beat strong balloons like ceramics and especially the Moabs. So that's all I'm going to talk about for the dartling guns. Like I really can't talk about too much just because they are so dependent on games. Let me go to this level right here. I'm playing easy, and we're talking about boomerangs a little bit. Boomerangs are probably one of the best towers in the game if you can use them correctly. If you use them wrong, they don't turn out terrible, but they can be pretty bad. For example, where would I put a boomerang on this map? I'd want him to put him on a spot where he could attack 3 times. Now, I know from experience that this would be the best spot right here in the entire map for a boomerang. And that's because he shoots them on this first path when they're coming through, he can shoot them on the second path when they're coming through, he can shoot them on this third path right here, and right here on the fourth. So, yeah, he can pop a lot of balloons if you have him in a spot like this. Now, I'm going to put one here just to show you how the curve actually works of a boomerang. The boomerang's curve will actually hook around and actually go out of his range. And you'll see that right here. I'm going to put him on last, and you'll see the boomerangs actually go all the way up here, and they're actually popping these red balloons. So realistically, you should put a boomerang, you should put, as soon as a balloon goes in his range, he throws it, and then they go out of the range. So you guys should realize that and notice that, so when you're actually playing the game, you can position your boomerang in the right spot. Now, should you put your boomerang on first, last, strong, or close? I would never ever put it on close, but I could see why, I guess, if you have a Clive Lord or a 3-0 boomerang. And that makes a little bit of sense just because as soon as he throws it, he's going to start popping balloons. But I kind of almost recommend not to do that. Usually you want to aim first or strong with those anyways. But once you get a 2-3 boomerang, it really doesn't matter what you put them on. Usually you want to put them on strong because there's ceramics coming up. But really doesn't matter too much. You usually want to leave them on first unless you're having to deal with ceramics. And the reason why you're going to put them on first is because those guys are so strong and they shoot so fast that almost no matter what, no balloons are going to get missed by his glides. Now when you have a low tier boomerang that shoots pretty slow, you want to make sure you put them in the right spot and put them on the right targeting system. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put them in a different spot, and I'm going to put them in a different spot that usually I put my other boomerangs in. Now you could put a boomerang something like this, and what happens is he is right-handed, so if you put him right here, he's going to throw down this line in a last fashion. And that sometimes works, and you'll see he'll actually throw it straight down this line, and then it'll hook around over here and it won't pop any balloons. But it does do pretty good if you put him on last, like right there. And then when he comes around over here, he will again pop some of these balloons. So he will be able to beat level 4, probably with no lives lost. Actually, I lied. He cannot do that. He was messing up pretty bad, and that's probably because he was aiming last. So this is actually a pretty bad spot for a boomerang. I would not normally put him here. What I would do is I'd put him in a spot somewhere where you could shoot a couple spots at once. And something like this would be pretty good because you could shoot once here, once down here, and once over here. And that usually works pretty good. And what you'd want to do here is usually leave him on either last or first. And why would you do that? Because if you put him here, his boomerangs would actually, if you put them on last, they would hook around over here and down this area over here because they go out of his range. And let's see if we can see that really fast. I'm going to get rid of this guy, but let's see if he can throw these down the path. And it seems like they're not popping all the way down, but they are going pretty much hooking around and hooking most of these balloons up here. And you could put them just a little bit closer, like right here, and that would make them hook around just a little bit better if you put him on last. That also means if he's aiming up here, he's going to aim some of the bad balloons, and that's not good. So usually you want to have some sort of backup tower, which is usually this tower, which I leave on first. And like I said, you just want to kind of watch the main thing to look at is where you're going to position him and where your boomerangs are going to shoot. Usually I would not put a boomerang somewhere where I'm going to shoot straight down a line unless it's a really difficult map where I just need some good popping power. But usually what I would do is put him in some spot where he could attack a couple times, and I'd usually just leave him on first for the most part until you get to some of the later rounds where you just want to pop some of the strong balloons so your cannons or something could do some work. And if you notice, this guy could actually pop quite a few balloons if you put him on multi-target. If I put him on multi-target, I'm not sure if he can pop all green balloons, but he could pop pretty much all red and blue balloons pretty much together. Yeah, see all that? The red and blue balloons are pretty much getting owned, and then you could just get the green balloons coming around over here. So last is like a good spot for most boomerangs. They're usually just going to keep hooking around a certain section, and that's exactly what you want to do. I guess that's really all for boomerangs. Like I said, the main thing to look at is just try and find a spot where he's going to shoot a bunch of boomerangs. And second to that, try and find a spot where his boomerangs will hook around the entire little section here. And there's a good spot on the castle for that. And let me just show you that really, really fast, and then I'll let you guys go. Anyways, castle. These are all messed up. All these maps are messed up. So the boomerang, like right here, would be a good spot for a boomerang. If you see his range is like not on this section right here, but what happens if you put him on last, his boomerang will shoot down here and go all the way through here. And if you watch my Castle Hard No Lives Lost tutorial, you'll notice why the boomerangs are so good. And there are not really too many spots for where they can hook around and go around like that, but this is one of them. And usually what I do is I'll get 2 boomerangs here and use them for my max popping power, and use some sort of wizard combo over here for the rest of this side. Usually you're going to have to spend more money because boomerangs are obviously super duper good. But that's really all I have to talk about for the boomerangs. I hope that helped just a little bit. I realize that targeting is very confusing, and you guys might not completely understand it, and it might not be that you guys are stupid or anything like that. It's that I can't explain it perfectly well because there's so many things that go into targeting that you just have to kind of think about it as a whole instead of thinking about it as part by part. So that's all I'm going to talk about today. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Please press like if you do, and if you don't, comment and tell me why, and I will try and fix it. Any other suggestions you guys have, comment and let me know. Thanks for watching.